Last week's episode of Sister Wives, there was an outstanding moment that I definitely want to make sure that we highlight and give proper flowers to. The moment I'm specifically speaking of is Gabriel.
Gabriel is he's my deep thinker. He's always been my deep thinker. He's been going to Northern Arizona University, and I know he's been speaking with a counselor. They're really great at the university about making those resources available.
Gabriel's self-awareness and decision to seek help for his mental state and his mental health while he's going through the transition of his family changing, his mother getting a divorce, his other mother, Christine, leaving the family, Mary leaving the family, his father basically abandoning him, and all of this while he's pursuing higher education. He decided that he wanted to go and seek counseling for himself. Now, I think that this is a very important step. And I give a big hats off to this young man because too often, young folks specifically, especially young guys, find it very difficult to go and recognize they have a problem, two, actually seek help to alleviate that problem, help them get through those issues. I think that that's very important, and it should be noted and it should be celebrated. From this respect, I think that in his own way, Gabriel is a leader. Now, why is it important that I cite that Gabriel is a leader? Because we listened for at least 2 or 3 seasons how Kody would proclaim that he is the patriarch. He is the leader of the family. They've been saying since, especially Robin, she's been proclaiming since early on when they were doing the interviews, especially like on CBS and ABC, Good Morning America, how Kody is the leader and they're all kind of following him and they're following his lead. Well, we've seen the type of leadership Kody has, especially in the last couple years. And that leadership has led to basically the destruction of the family. And what we've seen since that time is the development or the emergence of a new breed of leader. And that new breed of leader is leading by example. And I think that Gabriel is in that position where he's actually leading by example. He's taking toll on what he needs to do in order for him to be all right and for him to be able to maintain and keep the type of relationships that he wants to keep in his life and be involved with in his life. So he's seeking help. And I think that that's one of the big things that is a huge takeaway. Now, it's very clear that the Brown family, they oftentimes talk about going to seek counseling. Maybe they should talk to somebody. Maybe they should do group counseling. I think last season in the second episode, Kody had suggested that he and Christine go to counseling, even though they broke up and they're no longer together, which necessarily isn't a bad thing. Even in this episode, Janelle had mentioned that perhaps Gabriel and Kody could go seek counseling together. I would say that group counseling can help, couples counseling can help, but I think that you have to be at a certain point as an individual first before you can start bringing people in. It's kind of like plural marriage. Like if you don't have a stable first marriage, there's no point in you doing a second or third marriage. If you're struggling singularly and you aren't feeling like your mental health isn't right, it doesn't really do you any favors to bring somebody else into that counseling session, because those counseling sessions actually could give you a step back, because if you aren't getting your needs met, somebody else coming in there, especially somebody whom you're having a disagreement with, they can come in there, somebody who really knows you, they can come in there and they know your buttons and they can start pushing your buttons and exacerbate whatever problem that you already have, because they're trying to win the argument. They aren't necessarily seeking help. They're trying to win the argument. They're trying to be proven right. We've seen this with Kody's use of counselors before when he went with Mary. And I think it was the last time he went. I believe that was in like season 8. He went to the counselor with Nancy, and he sat there and said, well, I'm not going to talk about any of my problems or any of my issues. We're talking about her. We're going to talk about her stuff and what she's doing wrong. We're not going to talk about anything I'm doing wrong, because if we do that, I'm going to get up and I'm going to leave. At that point, it's no longer a counseling session. This is just a bully session. Like, we're going to bully this other patient. And that, like, at that point, the counselor should have just been like, okay, we're not doing this. I'm not going to participate in this. Now, one of the things that kind of popped up as a as an aside or as an example of how Kody is mistreating the family is his preferential treatment towards Robin. And what's funny is that both Janelle and Gabriel are echoing a lot of sentiments that have been passed around, especially in the YouTube verse by reactionaries like myself, reaction channels who have watched the show and have made the point that it seems to us like Kody really wants to be with Robin, and that's the family that he treasures, that's the family he values, and that's the family he wants to spend time with. It's interesting to me that we're finally hearing that from people in the inner workings of the family, acknowledging that that very well may be the case. One of the things that kind of came up was actually this point here.
Dad had been expressing things to them just off the cuff about he wished that he would have waited and just married Robin.
I never once told any of my children that I wish that I would have waited and just married Robin. That's a misunderstanding that has become a gossip in the family. It's like the telephone game or that game where you just repeat gossip, and by the time it gets back to you, it's completely distorted. It's really untrue.
I don't know what dad says that to their kids, but my kids have many stories like that.
It's like the telephone game where you spread a message and it gets down the line, but then, it's untrue. The funny thing to me is that Kody plays in the margins with this denial. So instead of him coming out and saying, I absolutely positively would never say that. Why would I say that? That would be ridiculous for a parent to say that to their child. I would never say something like that. That's completely ludicrous. Instead, he says basically, oh, it's a misunderstanding. So I said something and it went through the rumor mill. And by the time he got back to me, it was a completely different, or it was completely mangled to the point of it's unrecognizable. Maybe it's unrecognizable because you did say something similar or you did say that exact thing, but it's unrecognizable to your ear because you recognize how bad it makes you look. And with Janelle, her point that what kind of father would say that to his child? And as soon as she said that, I have to tell you that I took a pause and I said to myself, I said, self, I say yes. I say self, I say yes. I say self, I say yes. I know I've heard this before. Where have we heard this sentiment, this exact sentiment, heard on this show before?
I believe that Kody and I were supposed to be together from day one. And because of my mistakes, I spent years and years and years trying to make it right and actually not with the person I was supposed to be with.
So right from the rip, what kind of mother would say that to their child? And what kind of parent would say that to their child? So it's not, for me, we could make the argument on one hand that, well, Robin said that, it wasn't Kody. You have proof that Robin is a horrible person because she said that, not recognizing it. She's basically saying, I wish my kids didn't exist, right? And I would have to agree. Yes, you're absolutely right. I do have Robin on tape saying it. However, you put the two of them together, she's sitting there saying that right next to Kody. So it's not too much of a stretch for me to believe that Kody, the person who goes back and has a conversation with somebody and then will go back and basically reiterate that conversation as though it was from his perspective, if he's in agreement to what commentary was said during the course of that conversation, that he didn't go back and say something similar like that to his kids or around his kids, especially while he's frustrated, especially during the course of COVID where he's going so crazy because they're not following the rules. There's also the point where they keep talking about COVID and he keeps referring to it as the time where he almost lost his life and he saw the Grim Reaper and the Reaper was coming and he was barring the door. And Susan, get the gun, bar the door, because the Reaper was coming to get him. And he does that whole dance. The funny thing is that the breakdown of the family happened well before he was sick and well before the Reaper came and got his number or whatever the case may be. It happened long before that happened. In fact, there was a time right before in season 16 where they were sitting on the side of the mountain. Janelle had called them out to Kody Pass, and they were asking questions, and Janelle wanted to find out the best way to figure out how to make the family work and get the family back together, to get the family back on the same page. And at that point, Kody looked at them, basically ignoring everything everybody was saying. And then when it was his turn, he looked at all the wives, looked them in the face, and said, right now, I feel like you guys are in the way of my goals. And this is well before COVID was shutting everything down and the lockdowns, and everybody had to go to their house and hide out, and the family couldn't get together. This is well before that. In fact, since it was before that, it was way before you got sick. So it wasn't the fact that you got sick that all of a sudden you started hanging out with Robin and doing Robin fun. It was because COVID had happened, it was an excuse for you to do it. Kind of what Gabriel had said. And again, I give Gabriel a lot of credit. And I think that this episode, he is not only the guest star, but he's the guest superstar. Because, like I said in a couple lives already, I think that it's so important that young men take the time to not only make sure that they're okay physically, because guys, especially young guys, you go to the gym all the time and you're trying to get beefed up and bulked up and trying to, look good with the washboard abs and the big old guns for the beach body. We spend so much time trying to do that when we're young that we focus on our physical health, but we don't necessarily focus on our mental health. And that's where Gabriel is. And he's recognizing a lot of the problems that were already in his family. And he wants to fix those problems. But before he tries to fix the family's problems, he's trying to take care of himself. He's trying to make sure that he's okay. And I think that this is very important, recognizing that you have an issue and then seeking help for that issue. And this goes to a bigger point. I think that when we talk about like leadership, we talk about what we're doing as parents. This is Gabriel actually breaking a generational curse that exists within his family. Because from what I understand, Kody doesn't get along with his children, and his father, Kody's father, didn't get along with Kody. And so this is something that's being passed on from generation to generation. And Gabriel, it sounds like, is taking every step to try to get past that. There's another young man that I will give a lot of credit to, Hunter. When I see Hunter on the show, Hunter is another one that takes a lot of care about making sure he checks in with the family. Like when Hunter is with the family, you can tell that young man is present with his family. Like he's there. And I give him a lot of credit for that, because I think that is a big step towards being that next generation person who breaks that generational curse, where he can continue to have relations with his children and his family, and they can build out strong families, not only strong families and familial ties, but they'll be able to build out strong parental ties to their children moving forward. Let me know what you guys think. Leave your comments down below. That's my take. I'm James. This has been My Take on Reality, and I'm out. 'Cause I've been living life right like